So I've got it. It's recording. So for everyone, I'm Jelaine Chubb. I'm the state archivist, and I'd like to welcome you on behalf of the Texas State Library and Archives Commission. We are so pleased to finally get to share something about this project that we've been working on for a number of years with members of the Daniel family. We've told Tim about it from time to time that we had something in the works that we were going to share. And I brought together all the staff, I think, who have played a significant role in this project over the years. Some of them you may know, and I'll introduce them. Alana Inman is our manager at the Sam Houston Center.
She's muted, by the way.
She's not often muted, but today she muted herself. We've got Lisa Meisch, who is our archivist and curator out at the Sam Houston Center, and she's going to talk about the collections. And from our TSLAC staff, we have Steve Cantner, our digital asset coordinator, and Angela Swift, who is one of our digital archivists and worked with the collection. And then we have, of course, our director and librarian, Mark Smith, and our assistant state librarian, Gloria Meraz. And I'll let Mark, if you want to say a few words.
Oh, just I'm excited to see these films. It's always exciting to see anything from the archives, and Steve and Angela and the team there do great work in bringing these things back to life, and it's always so exciting to see them and see the history that unfolds. But particularly in this case, where we get to actually share it with the family of a great famous Texan like Price Daniel, and get to see this history come to life here, is it's really exciting, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And I hope you have a chance to also kind of look at our website and kind of see some of the other kinds of materials that we have there. And a lot I don't know if this stuff is going to be on, these films are going to be available on the Texas Digital Archive eventually. And
they are.
So
they are.
They already are. There's a huge amount of really cool stuff on there. So I just invite you to come in and browse and poke around and see what we have there. So thank you for making time for this.
Okay, we have Bob coming on as well.
I texted him.
Oh, excellent.
Warning, I can't tell him from Jonah. Jonah, you look just like Bob.
Is that so?
Well, we'll see, I guess, if he's doing
I don't know
video.
which one of y'all I'm complimenting.
I think I'm just a little younger than him, so that's probably a compliment to him.
Just don't take your hat off.
Oh no, you don't want to see this bad head.
You still have hair.
Yeah.
It looks like Bob is connecting to the audio. He may be muted, but we want to welcome Bob to the party as well. We've just been introducing ourselves, and I think what I'm going to let happen right now is have Alana Inman, manager at Sam Houston Center, say a few words about the collection, and then she'll turn it over to Lisa. And from there, we'll move into what went in, what the condition was like with these records and what we did to make them accessible. We're going to make you learn a few things before we show you.
Awesome.
And Joanne, you also have Gloria Meraz, the assistant state librarian. Oh, did you mention Gloria?
I did.
I beg your pardon. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm sure all of you are aware, obviously, Price Daniel gave his papers to TSLAC. They are housed at the center. So it's a very large collection. Lisa will go into more detail for you about what's been done in terms of binding aids and whatnot with the various aspects of the collection, but also a couple that we've gotten in that you may not know about that other people have given related to Price Daniel that did not necessarily come from your family. But the big highlight today is, of course, the audiovisual records, the film. and the audio that have now been digitized. And we believe those came in about 1989 from Jean. She donated them. And how we got to this point with them is we got a grant from the National Endowment for the Humanities in 2013. It's what's referred to as a preservation assessment grant, to have an outside consultant come in and basically do this very intensive 2-day study of everything from your roof to your air conditioning to where the water's located, to do samples from your various collections and just see what you need to do to improve your preservation measures. And so during that discussion of our audiovisual collection and what we had and where it was stored and whatnot, we discovered that the Price Daniel films had developed what is referred to as vinegar syndrome. And Angela will describe to you what that is in a little bit more detail, but to put it bluntly, it's a death toll. Vinegar syndrome is not something that you can go backwards with. Once something has vinegar syndrome, you really need to get it reformatted. You need to make sure it doesn't spread. So what we did at that point, and of course Lisa was very instrumental in all of this as the center's archivist, was get all of the film pulled from the collection, anything it might have been in a box with that was exposed records wise, quarantined, and look throughout the collection for any other film we had, like the audio, so that we could keep all of it together and get it to Austin, because we did not have the resources at that time to store them properly to try and slow down that syndrome. You can slow it down with proper storage. So we sent it to Austin. Lisa detailed it very detailed to keep track of it for them to use there in Austin, but we got it to Austin where it could be saved and where it could be reformatted. So it's Steve and Angela that primarily, once we were able to locate it all and get it pulled and get it to Austin, helped work to save it. But before they tell you a little bit about everything they had to do to save the film and get it to the point that it is now on TDA, Lisa's going to give you kind of a brief update of the other collections at the center and what we've been doing with them to try and get them more accessible online as well. So Lisa, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, as y'all know, of course, we have the Price Daniel papers, which consist of his Attorney General and U.S. Senator and gubernatorial papers, and they are well used by many patrons. One issue we encountered just a few years ago, and Laura Sagert and Alana and I had a discussion, and also input from the other staff, Sandra and Darlene. Those finding aids had been put up on Tarot some years ago, maybe 15 or so years ago, not sure exactly when, and they used our existing finding aids, which we had been.
Lisa, we can't hear you now for some reason. Your volume went down. And while she's working on that, for those of you who may not know, Tarot is Texas Archival Resources Online. So when we make a finding aid to describe a collection that researchers can use to know what's in the collection and what can help them with their research, it goes online on a website called Texas Archival Resources Online. So that's what she means when she's referring to Tarot.
Okay. Can you
And it looks like we may have lost her completely. So I don't know, Jelaine, if you want Steve and Angela to go ahead and talk about the film specifically while Lisa's troubleshooting.
She's muted.
Jelaine, you're muted.
Thank you. Yes, I think that's probably the best idea. And hopefully Lisa can sign out and sign back on. Alana, if you want to text her while we're doing this, that'd be great. All right, Steve Kantner. Oh, I'm sorry, Frank, did you have a question?
Oh, I was just going to say, in the meantime, with this new syndrome that I just learned about, do y'all mind if I'm asked back up? I'm just kidding.
We promise it's not catchy over the
I'm
internet.
kidding. I'm kidding.
Steve Cantner. Steve, do you want to talk for a few minutes?
Sure. Well, I'll do we just want to get started with Angela's right now? Because I'll go share
Sure.
right now. So hang on, everybody. I'm going to share a presentation. So we have
Oh,
some.
I recognize this phone number. Looks like Tom Daniels joining us.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome, Tom.
We have. Can you see that?
Can everyone see
I
that?
can. It looks great.
Yes.
Looks like a chalkboard.
Yes.
Well, we put this
Yeah.
together. We put this together. So there's a lot of photographs and things that we have to show you, and it's a lot easier to have it this way. So anyway, Angela, let me know. You want to move on to the next slide here?
Okay, I'll let you know, we're sharing the presentation, Steve's doing the slides, so. Good afternoon, I'm Angela Swift, I'm the archivist that worked on this project, and I'm here to talk to you about the process of getting the Price Daniel audiovisual collection ready for digitization. The original collection was comprised of 152 films, 94 open reel audio tapes, 16 lacquer discs, and 48 instantaneous transcription discs. The 16mm films were the most challenging format to work with, and that's mostly what I'm going to focus on with this presentation, my part of the presentation. Next slide.
All right, hang on a second. Where's my mouse? There we go.
Okay. The first step was to create an inventory of what we had and assign unique ID numbers to each item. Assigning unique IDs allows for control of the items, and it gives everything a unique name. This is especially important for those items that have little identifying information, like a loose reel of film. And we are lucky that Lisa at the Sam Houston Center provided us with a very detailed inventory, and that allowed us to match up reels in a box with their description. I also recorded information written on the reels, the cans, the boxes, and the mailing labels. And there were also paper documents found with the media, and we inventoried those, we digitized those, and rehoused them, and they're also available on the Texas Digital Archive. Next slide. So inspecting the film is important to help date the films, to detect damage and decay, and to find clues about the content of the film before we attempt to digitize it. This helps us make informed decisions about digitizing when that time comes. Inspection of the film is done with the use of rewinds or winds, which are the two cranks that you see in this picture here. The winds let you unwind and wind film slowly without stressing the perforations on the sides. And you can examine the film with a magnifying loupe for content information, date codes, and any technical issues like cracks or old splices. And we were aware that this film had varying degrees of what's known as vinegar syndrome, like Alana said. The film is made of cellulose acetate plastic. And when it degrades, it gives off acetic acid. And it has a very strong vinegar smell, hence the name vinegar syndrome. And when I started the process of inspecting the film, I was in a closed room on the ground floor. And breathing high levels of acetic acid can really cause irritation to the breathing pathways. And we quickly learned that inspecting the film in a closed room, well, that wasn't an option. So I moved the table with the wines out to the loading dock, as you see in this picture here, and I raised the door about 1/4 of the way. So this allowed the acetic acid fumes, which are heavier than air, to escape under the door. And then I was able to safely inspect the film and not subject myself or my coworkers to those fumes. Next slide. And so once vinegar syndrome starts, it causes damage to the film. And it causes the film to warp and curl, to be very brittle. And as you can see in the bottom picture, some of that warping. Some of the films that were very curled, we were able to reverse this curling by winding them the opposite direction on those winds and letting it sit for several days. And then this made the film flat enough that we could digitize it. Unfortunately, some of the film was too degraded to digitize. It was extremely brittle or just hardened into a solid brick. And an extreme example of this is in the top picture there. Next slide. So this was a sad day. When film degrades a little or a lot, it sometimes just breaks despite your best efforts. And this can happen on the winds as you're inspecting the film or just trying to get some film out of the can. When film broke, I spliced back the film together as possible, but it wasn't possible to fix all of the films. Some had degraded to the point where it just crumbled at the slightest touch. But we put back together what we could. Next slide. And I found a good number of the films had been secured with rubber bands or masking tape around the film. And over the years, this had melted in heat. And once I was able to get it off the film, it left a sticky residue. And then other films had just been kept not in a can, just loose. And so they were very dirty. So a lot of the films needed cleaning before we were able to digitize them. And because of the level of vinegar syndrome in these films, the cans and the wrappings that they were stored in also needed to be replaced. And the loose films needed to be put on a core. And so I rehoused the collection in archival film cans, and I labeled the cans with the unique IDs that were created during the inventory step. Next slide. So once the inventory and the inspection work were done, I created a condition report for Steve so he could start digitizing. And then I used the inventory to begin the finding aid. And during both processes, it became very evident and clear that we had quite a few duplicate films on our hands. And although I had completed a thorough inventory and I noted probable content, when you're working with audiovisual materials, you often don't know what's actually on the media until you digitize it, because a lot of the label information is incorrect or it's just missing. The large number of duplicates is probably due to a practice that began in the 1952 Eisenhower presidential campaign. Television was used as a campaign platform by showing short political campaign spots during commercial breaks or standard television programming. The campaign films were sent to many stations throughout Texas and then sent back to the campaign after airing. And this method of campaigning, we're also going to see in our upcoming Governor Alan Shivers audio collection. He also used this method. So in the end, we found 57 unique Price Daniel films that were in good enough condition to digitize. And the films that are described in the finding aids for the duplicates and that are available in the Texas Digital Archives, they're the best copies of any identical film. So we went through and we picked out the best ones. So I would like to pass it off to Steve now to talk about the digitization process. But first, I just wanted to ask if anyone had any questions about any of that.
Quick question, just curious real quick on that Alan Shivers digitization, I can't say the word, basically taking all this film and making it digital.
Yes.
Have you already contacted that family? Because I know one of the grandsons very well. He's an attorney out of Houston. If you want me to put you in touch with any of them.
That would be great. Yes. We're still, we haven't gotten it completely processed yet, but it's coming up pretty soon. So that would be wonderful. Thank you.
He would love it, and he can get you in touch with the rest of the family. So just letting you know.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. You guys hear me? Everybody can hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Sure. Before we start talking and rambling on. And so, again, my name's Steve. I'm the digital asset coordinator here. So I was hired back in 2014 to manage our local digital digitization program, to manage the local storage of the files, and work, of course, with the Texas Digital Archive, electronic records, and the archivists on these projects. And so I just want to talk a little bit here about that process, how we went from, mostly going to focus on the film, but I did want to talk about audio reels, but I want to talk about that process. It gets pretty technical, so I'm not gonna throw a lot of technical stuff at you. There's not a quiz after this or something. You're not going to be tested. But I just want to kind of go over some of those, the main workflow of what we had to do to get to the point where when we'll look at these films later. The audio reels, I wanted to talk about them first. Well, there are a number of things that we didn't digitize that we can't do in-house yet. Like we can do audio tape reels, audio cassette, 16mm film. Right next to me here, we have all sorts of video equipment. So we're increasing this program to be able to do a lot of different things. We still have from the Price Daniel collection, we still have lacquer discs, a 35mm film reel that we haven't digitized, and an old videotape open reel, which is kind of a really hard to come by platform as far as getting equipment anymore. So we do have a few things out there that we'll need to still digitize, but the bulk of the material is done. The audio reels, actually, I worked on these this summer, and as Angela said, there was about 100 of these, and they were mostly in good shape, really good shape, except for one. There was one where the actual coating of the tape was coming off, but they all transferred quite easily. And considering how, from the 50s and stuff, audio tape sometimes survives very well. The old stuff actually survives better than the more recent tapes, really. But this is our audio setup here, which you can actually see behind me over my shoulder back there. And that's where I worked on that this summer. Now, the films I started on, there's some of the actual audio tapes. I grabbed a couple pictures of those, and they came in all sorts of different sizes. You had these little 3-inch or 5-inch reels, 7-inch reels, and some of them were just loose. So one of the things Angela also did was rehouse any of the loose reels as well. So that's a sample on the right. We have a nice safe plastic clamshell for those tapes now, so they're not going to be exposed to dirt and dust. This is the film scanning station, which we have a small scanner for 16 millimeter film. Like I said, we can't do 35 millimeter, but most of the film we have is 16, and that scanner is what we use to capture all these films. And essentially the process is, it doesn't scan very quickly. We put on a reel of film and it scans 10 of the actual images per second of the film. So, if I put a 30-minute film on there, it's going to take quite a while for it to run through the entire film. So it's a long process. I started the actual film scanning process quite a while ago, whereas the audio was done more recently. Film had been scanned quite a while ago, and I wrapped up all the post scanning processes in early 2020. I do need to I want to let you know a little bit about size and what goes on with this, because when you're dealing with capturing film and capturing the audio and all this information, there's a lot of storage needs involved with that. Now, the total collection of the audio and the film is about 10 terabytes, and which is maybe today it's not as big, but you think, 5, 10, 15 years ago, 10 terabytes was, crazy huge. But on a normal film, it runs at 24 frames per second. That means for each minute, we got over 1,000 film frames that need to be captured. So our 30-minute film would be well over 40,000 images. One film could literally be 100 gigabytes alone. So when you start to talk about dozens or hundreds of films, when we look across multiple collections, it's a huge storage requirement that we have. And that gets put into the Texas Digital Archive and has to be stored perpetually into the future. So it does come with a rather large footprint, but because these films are decaying, we didn't have much other option, of course. But it does take a lot of storage. So I got, I don't know how many hundreds of terabytes of storage down here in the lab right now. So because of all of this type of work. So this is generally what an individual film frame scan looks like. This is what we call an overscan. So I'm not only scanning the image, but also scanning the optical audio on the right-hand side. You can see the perforations, which everybody kind of thinks of as sprocket holes on the left. But I will capture everything in one pass, so we have the audio and the image captured in our raw preservation scan. And so that's what it looks like as far as each individual frame that's captured. The scanner does not capture, it doesn't convert that audio, that optical audio into sound. It doesn't do that. That's another process I'll talk about in a second. So one of the challenges that we really ran into with the scanner was that sometimes it would misregister frames. And if we take a look, these are 3 consecutive frames, and we can see the first one on the left is the way I was scanning the next frame. It actually took a snapshot slightly before it did with the one before and after it. And so when it misregistered frames, when I used software to combine these back into video, there would be a hop where this frame would be. So that became a little bit of a challenge of fixing some of these errors that inherently occur. this may be due to a number of factors: markings on the side of the film, damage to the film when it's passing through the scanner. Some of the edges of the film may have breaks and things. So this happened often enough that it was definitely something I had to address. And so I'm going to show you next is an actual clip of what it looks like without fixing it. So this is a clip of the film. And if you watch closely, you'll see the hop. It hops a couple times in this one. There you go. Hopefully you saw that. The film drops down real quick, just for that one frame. And there is no sound on this. This is just a silent video. But those hops are, of course, not something we want in our finished videos. So I'm going to talk about how I fixed that in a little bit. But I wanted to talk first about how to get the sound off of the film. So again, the National Endowment of Humanities, they obviously funded the assessment for the Sam Houston Center. They also funded a University of South Carolina. They funded a software grant to some professors and grad students there. And they created actual software that will read still frames of film this way and extract the audio from the image. So we wouldn't be able to do this without the National Endowment of Humanities putting this together. So essentially, this is what the window looks like. It grabs the optical audio and compares the bright and the dark pixels, and then creates a grayscale bar, and it pulls out actual audio. So all the audio you hear in these films went through this process of extraction. So this is free software, so it didn't cost us anything, and we didn't have to have any hardware. We just needed to have the software. Well, we needed the hardware to capture the film, but we didn't need any special audio capture at all. So that was a real help. I don't think we would have gotten where we are without AEO Lite. So cool little program. Although, you know, I'm like the only person here that's probably that excited about it, but oh well, it's all right. I use Final Cut Pro. We have a Mac workstation down here, and I use Final Cut Pro to assemble the timeline and the audio, the video and the audio. And this is where I would actually edit and readjust the frames that were misregistered. So any frames that hopped, I would mark them, then I'd go in and cut that frame and make a vertical adjustment to it so it's in line, and that way I could kind of restore the proper balance. There's also some software built into Final Cut Pro which allows for some motion stabilization. So if you've watched old film, you can see it doesn't always register perfectly. It's a little wobbly. The motion stabilization in here does generally, not all the time, but did a pretty good job of stabilizing the images. So there was a whole process behind that. This is actually not, this is an interesting image for you to see, because this is not this is digitized, but not out yet, because it's in the queue for finding a, but this is Price Senior swearing in Price Jr. for the Constitutional Convention in 1974. So that's been digitized, and so that'll be coming someday down the pike. They've been digitized, but they're not going to be available just yet. But I found I didn't have a convenient image of anything from the Price Daniel collection, but I did have this shot where he makes a cameo in the Constitutional Convention films. So hey, figured, hey, this one's in color. Everything else is black and white. It's great.
Hey, Steve, this is Tim Daniel. I'll just tell you real quick that you have Price Jr.'s 3 sons on this call. So I know that's cool for them to see.
I'm very happy to show this to you. And we'll let you know when these come out online too. So.
Well, I'm trying to figure out how I can just like somehow copy this right now and start like posting it somewhere in my office. I love this pic in color. Never seen it.
I think we can probably figure out a way to make an image for you.
That's awesome. Don't go to any trouble, but I love seeing these things, because especially since I've never seen them before. So thanks.
If you, just as long as talk to Jelaine and get your email addresses and whatnot, we'll figure out something.
I have to send you a HIPAA authorization or something. It was a joke. That was a joke. Just kidding.
But yeah, so Final Cut Pro is where I did all the fixing of the stabilizing the film. And then from there, I would crop out, of course, that overscan. We don't need to see the optical audio and all that. So I'd crop out and then save out what you see on the web, the actual final version for, I guess, for your eyes. So what I did, and I started this process with another project, and I continued it with Price Daniel, is I had a private YouTube channel. These weren't available for the public to see, but what I would upload the films when I finished them up there and let the captioning software and YouTube auto caption so we could get some of the text there. I would go through and correct errors. It never does a good job with names, and you can see there's some funny names like Price Dangle, Price Tangle, Christ Daniel. It didn't, so I'd have to go through and fix those. Other than that, the YouTube auto captioning works pretty well. So once I did that, I downloaded those caption files. I embedded them into the web copies, which now on the Texas Digital Archive should show the captions. And I also saved those captions as PDF files that are stored with the film. So when people do a text search in the digital archive, if let's say they search on Price Daniel, those PDFs will show up, which then they'll see it's a caption for a video or a film, and they can go and access it. So it becomes text searchable in that way. And one of the things that takes a lot of time, and I get looking from the outside, people don't necessarily see this often, but is all the metadata. So when Angela worked on collecting all the the titles and what these films were, she put this onto a large spreadsheet. Well, I took that spreadsheet and we updated that. She actually updated the titles and things where they didn't have titles for the finding aid, and I took that information and we have this giant spreadsheet, and I have to take all that data and put it into what a computer can read, and that's XML. So that's a pretty big part of the process to make things accessible and discoverable online. It's definitely not the part that people are, it's not the fun part of the project as far as everybody likes to watch the films, but this is like super necessary and super important, but it kind of goes on in the background. But that's was the next step after everything was done. So we're adding to this metadata the whole time. This process occurs though at the very end. And then I handed them over to the electronic records specialist, and they uploaded it into Preservica. And this is what it looks like in Preservica. We have the little kind of a landing page, and of course here's one of the actual films with the metadata up there. So what I'm going to do, and Angela, are you ready?
Yes.
I'm going to bring up the web, and we had pre-selected some, oops, that's the Zoom thing. Hang on a second. I'm going to stop the share for a second, and I'm going to restart the share, and I want to share I'm going to share the whole desktop. So you can see my whole desktop now. Okay. And so this is the identifier. This is film 70. And I wanted to show you before Angela, because Angela, was going to talk a little bit about these films, but I just wanted to show you here. This is the actual document. So this is the caption. So it's a transcript of this interview, and this is what's text searchable. So everything that's spoken in there is now in the text in the Texas Digital Archive, which is allows people to find this stuff otherwise, rather than watching every video. They're looking for something particular. Anyway, I'm going to click on this, and Angela?
Yeah, this first clip that we're going to see is from a 1955 interview with Senator Daniel, and he's talking about the 54th Congress and working with President Eisenhower.
All right.
From the United States Capitol in Washington, D.C., we presented a public service, an informal interview with Senator Price Daniel. The Congress has adjourned. This session of the Congress has left Washington. Many of the members have gone on tours of inspection, and your United States Senator is one of those. We'll get into that in just a few moments. First, Senator Daniel, I wish you'd give us your estimate of the accomplishments of this session of the Congress.
Well, Bob, I think in general we can say that this has been a highly successful session of the United States Congress.
We have had cooperation, in my opinion, with the president. We have gotten along all right on most of the important issues. And I think in general that we might say that the session has been highly successful. Well, now, it seems to me that I recall a statement made by the president last year, I believe it was, that if he got a Democratic Congress, it would be political Cold War. Well, now, that doesn't jive with the actual record, does it? No, it doesn't, Bob. I think that although the president predicted a political Cold War if he had a Democratic Congress, that now he would have to admit that he has had cooperation on most of the major issues from the Democrats, both in the House and in the Senate. Speaker Rayburn and Senator Johnson, the majority leader, certainly given every cooperation on all matters that they could to the President of the United States. First, Senator, I'd like to get into the question of.
All right, so that was going to go on to 37.
And then this next film is from March of 1956, and Senator Daniel is announcing a possible run for the governor. We're going to see a short bio piece and then an introduction of the Daniel family.
Yeah, so this is like 4 minutes. This first part's like about 4 minutes here, I think.
This is the lengthier.
Arranged for on a regular commercial basis by United States Senator Price Daniel. Tonight, we shall hear from United States Senator Price Daniel concerning his possible candidacy for governor of Texas. Price Daniel was born and raised in Liberty County, where his ancestors settled while Texas was still under Mexican rule. They established the town of Liberty, which is celebrating its bicentennial under the leadership of Price's brother, Bill Daniel. Price was educated in the public schools of Liberty and Fort Worth. He attended Baylor University at Waco, where he received degrees in journalism and law. At the age of 32, Price Daniel was elected Speaker of the Texas House of Representatives, a job which he left to enter the Army as a private in World War II. After 3 years' service, including a tour of duty in the Pacific, he was discharged a captain. Upon returning from the service, Price Daniel, in a whirlwind campaign, was elected Attorney General of Texas, where he served 6 years. There, he gained national fame as a trust-busting, crime-fighting attorney for the people of Texas. In 1952, the people of Texas elected Price Daniel to the United States Senate. Here he is being sworn in by the then Vice President, Alvin Barkley. In his 4 years' service in the Senate, Daniel has had a highly successful career, serving now on the important Judiciary and Interstate and Foreign Commerce Committee. He is also an active Baptist layman, having recently been elected president of the International Christian Leadership Organization, which sponsors weekly prayer breakfasts throughout the entire nation. Here, he is shown participating in the recent prayer breakfast held in Washington for the members of Congress, the president, and his cabinet. Before we hear from the senator, let us first see the Price Daniel family. Here they are on the ranch at Liberty. Now, let's meet them in person. Senator Price Daniel, Mrs. Daniel, Price Jr., Jean, Houston, and we don't want to miss John here in the end. Mrs. Daniel is a great-granddaughter of the famous Texas hero, General Sam Houston. That's right, isn't it, Mrs. Daniel?
No, sir. A great-great-granddaughter. Don't make me any older than I am.
And as I recall it, Sam Houston.
I'm hitting a glitch here. I don't know what's going on. Let's see if I can push it a little.
It may be an internet issue.
Yeah, probably.
I thought you were dropping the mic after my grandma said what she said.
Yeah. Well, I think we just kind of hit something happens here. I don't know, but it's probably just an internet glitch. But the Zoom's still working. So, but I'll move on. Let's see if I can. Let me see if I can Let's go on to this next one here.
Yeah, Steve. Actually, while we're waiting for this maybe glitch, I had sent you a chat message. Why does the caption keep changing sizes? I think that may be a glitch as well. I'm not.
Yeah,
sure.
I noticed that too, and I was we're gonna have to talk to Mark about that because They have Preservica. This system has a new ability to present the captions. I had embedded the captions in the video, and then they have some way to do it. And so I'm not sure if it's because they're already embedded in the video, and then they have Preservica trying to do that on top of it. I'm not.
That's my thought, is that it's it's trying to double up. So that's a technical thing we can clean up, but I just wanted everyone else to know that's just something, that's just a little cleanup work that we need to do. But let's try to play this video. Do you remember which one this is?
This is from the same one, but this is towards the end. There's like a minute here. I don't know. I think maybe he was talking about the Tidelands here. I'm not sure.
Here we're going to hear the tagline of his campaign.
Okay. All right. So yeah, this is about a minute or so.
Have in the past, unless one of them forces me to do otherwise as a matter of conscience. Because of my 6-year fight to regain the 3 million acres of tidelands for our public schools, in 1952, I felt forced in all good conscience to oppose a presidential candidate who said that he would give a third veto to an act of Congress restoring these lands to our state. I blame none of you who hold this against me, but I hope you will understand that I could not be true to myself and to the fight that I had made for Texas without taking the action I did in 1952. I hope such circumstances never arise again, and you may be sure that I will be doing my part toward trying to build a stronger and better Democratic Party in which all of us can put forth our best efforts in the future. Secondly, you will notice that I have not called the name or referred to any other candidate or prospective candidate for governor. I will not deal in personality. If you decide that I should make this race for governor, I will run on my own merits and on my own program. I think Texas needs clean politics as much as it needs clean government. No matter.
I think that may have been where we ended it.
No, it's
Did it freeze?
I'm on this computer. IT doesn't allow me to hook it up to the network, so it's on the wireless, and so I think it's just bogging down between Zoom and that.
Well, we did get to the tagline, so yay.
Yay.
So yeah, and so there were the other one here, Angela, is 108.
108. Yeah, this is a film from 1956. It's a campaign film, and Fess Parker introduces the Daniel family here.
So let's hope that it plays all the way through before I lose the buffer here. We'll cross our fingers, and I'm going to shut off the captions so those aren't distracting too if they pop up again.
For the next 30 minutes, the facilities of this station have been engaged and paid for on a commercial basis for an address by Price Daniel. Mr. Daniel will speak in the interest of his candidacy for election to the office of Governor of Texas. Good evening. From our Fort Worth studios tonight, we are bringing you a visit with United States Senator Price Daniel, candidate for Governor of Texas. He is here tonight with his family and a very special friend, Fess Parker, native Texan who has won fame in his role as Davy Crockett. Price Daniel graduated from high school in Fort Worth, and Fess Parker was born here. Fess will serve as master of ceremonies for this program. And here he is, Fess Parker.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be home. And I'm happy to be here tonight to help my friend Price Daniel in his campaign for governor for several reasons. First, Texas is home to me and close to my heart. I've lived in Fort Worth, San Angelo, Abilene, and Brownwood. I attended Texas A&M, Hardin-Simmons University, and graduated from the University of Texas. My mother and father live in Fort Worth and are here in the studio tonight. And my business and personal interests are still in Texas. And naturally, I have a keen interest in the future of our great state. Now, if I didn't know Price Daniel personally, I would be impressed by his accomplishments as Attorney General and as United States Senator, not by promises or talk, but by action. I cite two of these accomplishments of which every Texan should be very proud. First, the Tidelands victory, which restored to Texas 3 million acres of state lands for our public school fund. This victory already has brought nearly $60 million to our permanent school fund. Secondly, I refer to Senator Price Daniels' nationwide investigation of the dope traffic and the law which he put through Congress, which authorizes the death penalty for the sale of heroin to the youth of our country. If for no other reasons than these, I would be for Price Daniel for governor of Texas. Many of his other accomplishments.
Oh, well, looks like we're going to get about a little over 2 minutes on each of these, but then I think I buffer out. This one's a little more wobbly of a picture, and I remember this one because it's actually a kinescope. They shot film of a video monitor, and it has the video distortion going on, and I could not get any of the stabilization to work on that one. But yeah, I remember this one. This one's a little more wobbly than the others. But we can move on to
Steve, why don't you just try to advance that film a little bit, see if that will work? Because I really do want them to see the a little bit more of that. Yeah. It's when they talk with the family.
I will say, thanks to y'all emailing or allowing us to, through Dropbox, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of us have actually watched all of these.
Have
and it's
you? Oh,
awesome.
Oh, good. Okay. Well,
Things
now I'm
that
not
I've
so
never
worried.
seen ever. So this, I can't thank y'all enough.
Okay. Well, then in that case, Steve, go ahead, because that was one of the clips that I wanted to make sure you all saw. I thought seeing Houston and Gene and John and it was just and Price Jr. That was just great.
Absolutely.
I don't remember if the next two were part of that email or not, because I think I sent 5 or 6 films that way. But 108 was certainly part of that. But yeah, this one, this is film number 74, Angela.
Yeah, this film is from 1958. It's a 1958 campaign film, and it focuses on the town of Liberty and the Daniel family at home.
Texas town where he was born and reared is Liberty, a typical Lone Star State community lying approximately halfway between Houston and San Antonio. On these streets as a boy, Price Daniel worked at his first job, delivering newspapers. It was in this house that a small baby destined to hold the state's highest office was born on October 10, full of people, as the Price Daniel family is a close-knit clan of 6. Mrs. Daniel and her husband based their family life upon Christian principles and teamwork. Each day begins as the family gathers at the breakfast table.
Oops, that was me by accident.
Clasping hands as brothers. Often they meet and talk as they did recently on the steps of the high school which they both attended. His law offices, Price Daniel began his law practice in 1932 after being admitted to the state bar. On this same spot, his wife's famous ancestor, Sam Houston, once had his law office. But now?
And then 71 was the other one, Angela.
Yeah, this is a 1962 campaign film called The True Story by Price Daniel. And in this clip, he's talking about the programs that tax money funds in Texas.
Yeah, it's like right around 12 minutes and 30 seconds here.
Mm-hmm.
We'll let it catch up to me because I think it was.
I just want to say it's funny, the kitchen in that prior films at the ranch, I don't think that kitchen's changed very much in the past 63 years. Looks about just exactly the same, which is kind of cool.
I think the only change I know is that people don't wear coat and tie to breakfast.
Now, did anyone else notice they said Liberty is halfway between Houston and San Antonio? They obviously didn't do their research there.
Yeah, there are a few glitches in these films like that.
Let me see if I can, yeah, so it's just not buffering all the way back to the 12-minute point very well. But let me see if I can force it to, but yeah, I mean, Zoom eats up a lot of bandwidth, so I think that's probably why
I'm gonna stop my video. See if that helps.
These are all, they're all live. I think I scrolled through a couple of them last night.
They are, Tim, and there's about, I think about 11 hours worth of video if you were to sit down and try to watch each and every one of these all the way through.
I've been looking for something else to binge.
Well, I think it's definitely going to be there, and there are a couple of places where I found something in one of the previous films where they talk about accomplishments, or maybe it's in this film coming up, but they talk about a number of different accomplishments in terms of the buildings that have been were being built during your grandfather's term, and and they even focus in on the development of this building, the Lorenzo de Zavala State Archives and Library building. And then there's another segment where they're talking about our talking book program, which is our library for the blind and physically handicapped. So it was little nuggets of things for us as well.
yeah, it looks like it's not being too happy about the bandwidth thing. So,
well, Steve, do you want to just show them you all have, I think, the link to the Texas Digital Archive, but just making sure you know how to get there from our website, I think would be useful. Well, there you go. You got.
That's the main page.
Page.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but
we'll just show them the main page then, and where this material is located, if somebody got to that main page.
It's actually right now, I mean, it's under manuscript collections.
Mm-hmm.
It's also under the Sam Houston Center's icon as well. It's in a couple different places.
Huh, okay. Yeah, I found it under governor records, but
we have a couple of different cross references. So governor's records, because some of it while he was a governor, others were campaign materials while he was a senator. So we wanted to make sure that anyone looking for it would be able to readily find it. So cross referencing.
Oh, when I checked this before, I didn't see it in here, so I thought it wasn't cross-linked yet. But okay, great.
And Jelaine, yesterday when I was going through some of these, well, I guess Jelaine and all, but I think the latest clip I had was the 1980 radio spot for Jim Turner. And we are still very good friends with Jim and his wife, Jenny. And I was able to actually email that to them yesterday, and everybody's just awestruck, just to be able to see this. I mean, I know, Frank's mentioned it, and there's still so many others for us to go through that I don't think we've ever seen a video of our parents as children. It's just neat. I mean, every time you've mentioned it, it's given me a little sneak peek. It's just been, I don't know, a joy.
Well, that's that's great. I'm so excited that it's going to be something that is going to be useful for the family. But I'm even, quite frankly, more excited for people who don't know about the contributions of Price Daniel and what was done during his terms of office in each area, both as governor, senator, and later on, to discover that, and then be able to hopefully go from the videos into more of the textual records that we have at the Sam Houston Center and really use those to, to delve more into more recent Texas history. We always talk so much about Texas history in terms of Republic era or Civil War era, but I think what people are beginning to see is that the 1950s and 60s were such an important era for Texas government and for Texans. And certainly he played a larger than life role in that. I mean, he has Davy Crockett, come on. Davy Crockett came out and Daniel Boone, I know Fess Parker played both of those, that's huge.
Jelaine, I think Lisa is back on if you wanted her to quickly mention the other paper records that we have here in Liberty that people can use in combination with these videos.
Absolutely. Lisa, come on back.
Okay, can y'all hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I'm sorry about that issue earlier. Okay, I was just saying that, of course, we have the Attorney General, his Attorney General, U.S. Senator, and gubernatorial papers here, and we've had finding aids for those papers for a long time. But one issue that we discovered was that they had been put on Tarot quite some time ago. And again, I think it was around 15 years ago or so. That's just a rough estimate. And of course, what we found was that our finding aids had some errors and they didn't match the ones on Tarot. And there had been some reorganization by other Sam Houston staff members over the years, and that was a problem. And when people would look at the finding aid, pull a box for something, and maybe it wasn't where it was supposed to be. So that was obviously a frustration for the staff members and, of course, our researchers. So after discussion with Laura Sagert and Alana and myself and our other staff members, we decided what we had to do. Number one, the Tarot finding aids, which had been up there a while, needed to be updated and edited for our to be compliant with our current standards. And also we needed to get them consistent with the Sam Houston Center finding aids. So the only way we could do that was for me to actually physically review every single box, and that's all the Attorney General, the U.S. Senator, all the governor records. That's over 600 cubic feet of records, and then get them all consistent, get the finding aids updated. So over a course of, I guess, 3 years, another staff member and I physically reviewed the boxes, checked them against the existing finding aids. We made corrections. I made corrections on the computer, and then ended up on that. And then, of course, I made some updates and corrections on the administrative sections, and then they were sent to Austin, where Austin staff also reviewed and made edits to them. And then ultimately, all those updated finding aids are now up on Tarot for people to access. They are the folder inventories and the finding aid match what's in the boxes. So that's helpful, obviously, for researchers and for our staff as well. So that's another big accomplishment with relation to Price Daniels records that we've made. Very quickly, I'll just mention we have some other Price Daniel related collections here as well. Just hit some of the highlights. We have his papers as the director of the U.S. Office of Emergency Preparedness, where he served under President Johnson. We have his papers as the Texas Supreme Court Justice. Both of those sets of records need additional processing and finding aids. So that's something hopefully we could get done at some point soon. We also have a couple of other collections that were donated by other individuals that pertain to Price Daniel. The Elizabeth Stafford Hutchinson papers. I think Mrs. Hutchinson and her husband were friends and associates of Governor and Mrs. Daniel. And some of this has to do with these are some personal, it concludes some personal correspondence between Mrs. Hutchinson and Mrs. Daniel that's very interesting, and some other campaign material. We also have, and I'm not sure if Alana, perhaps you know the correct pronunciation of her name, Margaret Legath or Legath. I'm not sure which it is. It's Legath. She was Price Daniel's secretary when he was director of the U.S. Office of Emergency Preparedness. And this is primarily a photograph collection, and it has a lot of wonderful photographs of Price Daniel when he's serving in that capacity at various events and conferences. And you see pictures of there's pictures of him meeting with President Johnson. There's photos with other governors. He was also the liaison to the various governors. So you'll see a lot of governors of that time. And it's a very good photograph collection that's very interesting.
I wanted to mention that there are, obviously, you're probably wondering, well, now that we have the films up, what's next? So Steve and Angela mentioned some other audio visual materials like the 35mm film that we have. And also there's a 2-inch, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, quadruplex tape.
Yeah.
That needs digitization, as well as some lacquer discs. And lacquer discs are, think of an or almost like a vinyl record album, but it's layers of actually lacquer on, is it steel? Aluminum. And so that is, the digitization of those types of materials are very, they require a lot of resources that we don't have here. And we have sent out some 16-inch lacquer discs that we had that dated from the 40s and 50s. I think one of them was from maybe the 1930s, and included Pappy O'Daniel on it. We sent those off to a company called Media Preserve to have them use their tools to extract the data and digitize those, because those lacquer discs are continuing to disintegrate as well. So then one of the next problems for us is to go ahead and finance to get the rest of that legacy media done. And then, like Lisa said, we're going to move into hopefully doing the Supreme Court records as well. So there's still a lot to be done. It's not complete by any stretch of the imagination. We also have a lot of photographs in the collection that we're hoping to digitize as well and put those up on the Texas Digital Archive. Alana?
Yeah, I was going to say, Tim knows a lot about what goes on at the center through being president of the Atascocita Historical Society. But just so everybody knows, we continue to improve things at the center. And two of the things there lately, we got a broadband upgrade. We were essentially still on dial-up. So we couldn't even use the Texas Digital Archive on site. We didn't have enough broadband for people to use it there. And we couldn't, upload and download things from the server in Austin very well. If I needed to look at a blueprint that Steve had digitized for us, I might as well go to lunch and come back, and then maybe it would be open. So we just recently got the broadband upgraded, so everybody will be able to look at these videos and everything on TDA on site, but we also just got some scanning equipment for the center. So we are certainly not fancy enough to do film. Anything like that would still need to go to Steve, but we are going to be able to begin doing some digitization ourselves to get more things online on TDA from the center. So the collection that Lisa was referencing with a lot of the photographs from Price Daniel's time in Washington under President Johnson is going to be a great candidate for, one of our first in-house digitization projects as we kind of step off into those waters ourselves. So that's more of what's kind of coming up at the center and from the center in connection with TDA and increasing online access to our Price Daniel and other materials out at the center.
And I forgot to mention both the Hutchinson papers and the Legath papers are the finding aids. Those are processed collections, and the finding aids are available on Tarot.
Right. So everybody can get to the information to use them for research, and we already have all that information to build on the metadata and whatnot, like Steve was discussing. It'd just be scanning them now that we have the equipment.
And along with this, our long-term plan is to incorporate some of these videos and audio materials into our museum that's there on site at the center. And if you haven't been in to see the museum since we renovated it, I hope you know, when travel is possible and you're over in Liberty, you go and call Alana up and she'll give you a first class tour. But there is a section on the continuing the legacy. And that's a place where we're seeing an audio video interactive component where we can bring some of these things sort of to life so that people they want to learn about Price Daniel as governor, they can click on it and see a couple of video clips that we've selected that really kind of highlight contributions to the locale and to the state. And we want to do these for Alan Shivers and others that we're going to include in there, and to make it a much more, again, interactive sort of a place to get that information and just, you know, introduce a new generation to you know, important aspects of Texas history. I would ask if y'all got any questions of us, if we haven't already addressed them.
Go ahead, Frank. I know you got some.
You know, I could talk forever. No, I have no questions at this time. However, I want to offer any support whatsoever. You've definitely got all my thanks and prayers, and golly, y'all have obviously been doing a lot of work, and I'm just so sorry I didn't know until Tim informed me that y'all really put in a lot of work, and I just can't thank you not only for the preservation of the future of our past Texas history, but personally, thank you so much for my own kiddos to be able to see their dad and then their grandpa and their great uncle and the likes. It's amazing, and pictures that I've never seen. So I just thank you from the bottom of my heart.
They kept it a secret, Frank. I didn't know until I let everybody else know. I was just in shock and awe. We happened to have a video meeting, and then Jelaine pulled this out at the last minute. I was like, whoa.
I mentioned it. I said something, but I don't think my words were able to do it justice as to what was actually happening.
That really, it goes to the point of you mentioned it, but until you see it,
right,
you can't appreciate it as much.
Well, it's always better for us to be able to show you something.
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of hits home. And then we do a little bit of the education of what it took to get there. So now that you know what we're working on, just know that it's going to continue. And, you know, and Frank, I appreciate the support that you've just pledged. And I know that Tim does as well. And the Daniel family have always been strong supporters of the Sam Houston Center and this agency. And we're grateful. This is just a little bit of, you know, us returning the favor.
Well, thank you.
Mark, do you want to, you know, help close this out? Or I don't know if Bob or Jonah or have any questions or want to make any comments.
Or Tom, speak up. Come on, we want to hear from you.
I think he's muted.
Yeah, we know he's muted on purpose, and we want to see his video. He's probably, well, let's just hope he has his pants on. Come on, Tom.
I saw Bob unmute for about 5 seconds. So
he's been off and on texting me, telling me he's trying to do work at the same time as pay attention, but
I'm on 2 calls at the same time. Thank you guys so much. I really do. I echo what Frank and Tim said. I completely agree. You have our support. Anything you guys need financially or time. I mean, it's a drive, but we can make it, and we're there to support you. And I can't wait to look at all the videos. I haven't had a chance to go in and to the Dropbox and actually look at this stuff, but you definitely left some cliffhangers out there for us to go finish those videos. So I'm excited.
Good, good.
Well, so I'll just say, I just want to thank the Daniel family for joining us today. I hope you know how large your grandfather's legacy and great-grandfather's legacy looms in our agency. He was responsible for getting the building built here and giving the obviously the property and liberty to the state for our agency's use, and he just is he's the patron saint of this agency, and it's a real treat for us to be able to spend an hour with you here on a Friday afternoon, kind of showing you some of these films and seeing your reactions. We really appreciate your time and your support, and the Daniel family has been so supportive of us over the years, and I know that Alana and Lisa and all of our team, our great team there in Liberty, seconds that, and so we thank you, and just anything we can do to help you and support you, let us know. So.
Thank you, Mark, for the kind words.
And please do visit Alana out at the center. If you get over to Liberty, it's on the way to the ranch.
Yes.
So just drop by, and she'd be happy to show you any of the materials there.
Oh, definitely.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I see Tom's unmuted. Tom.
Yes, thank you very much. Our grandparents are smiling down on you all. Thank you for everything.
Our pleasure.
He lives.
Well, you're also very, very kind to join us today for this. And I know I speak for Alana when I say it means a lot. And we're just very glad that we've gotten to this point. Sometimes these projects take a long time. And people say, when are you going to get around to it? When are you going to get to it? We're working on it. We're working on it. I promise you we're working on it.
Well, I hope and pray everybody's recovered from, what was it, vinegar syndrome?
We're all feeling just fine. Thank you for asking, Frank. We're good.
I know a good personal injury attorney.
Hey.
No shame.
Tim, let us know if there's any questions. If any of the family have, as they try to go in and look at these videos, if there are any issues at all, let us know about it, or any questions, and staff would be happy to answer them, and we'd be happy to, reconvene, a little one-on-one if needed. Pretty much anything you need, let us know.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Elena, Gloria, Jelaine, Angela, Tim, Jonah, Bob.
Everybody,
Thank you all so much.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Y'all be
you.
safe.
All right.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.